Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bnga Dewi Sonya from English Department 6A. In this video, I want to present about my proposal with the title The Influence of Student Team Achievement Division Towards Student Speaking Ability at the 10th grade of SMK Negeri 8 Bandar Lampung in academic year 2020 and 2021. Okay, now I want to explain about the background of the problem. Speaking skill is an essential part in learning language as a tool of communication. Language in general is studied to be used to connect among people by communicating in verbal to understand and comprehend each other. Brown stated that speaking is a productive skill that can be directly and empirically observed. It shows that speaking produces a language which can be observed in certain aspects such as pronunciation, fluency, grammar, and etc. In education world, the transfer knowledge of language involves teacher and students as important element in teaching and learning language. Having said that, the teaching process played the crucial part in the achieving the goal of learning. In this circumstance, the teaching method needs to be considered as a component which determines the success of the process of teaching and learning. The emphasis of the point explained above is a principle particularly in delivering material lesson that students regard as a nightmare in learning language like this in English speaking. Teaching speaking needs to be safe to students with interesting idea so that it doesn't look boring. Hammer said that the method by which students are taught must have some effect on their motivation in the process of learning in the classroom. Students will get many benefits from learning speaking since the goal of learning language is to communicate. As Richard and Reynolds state that speaking is one of the central elements of communication in grammar-based questions as the basic in learning English. Nonetheless, this specific way in learning English forget the main principle in learning language, particularly in English as a global language, which is the ability of speaking passive. Cameron stated that speaking is an active use of language to express meaning so the other people can make sense of them. By this statement, the researchers think that students need to be taught the core principle of language learning. Speaking is the key in learning English language, so that students can show and deliver the meaning in order to make people understand what students say. It means that the learning English is not only about learning grammatical aspect in constructing sentence, but also understanding an appropriate implementation of those aspects in oral performance. Now, this is the identification of the problem. The first is students are feeling shy, fearful, and doubtful to speak in speaking class because they are not accustomed to speak English in class. Second, most of the students lack of risk taking to participate actively in the class because of the class crowded and makes some of them lose their concentration. Third, most of the students consider that speaking is a difficult material to learn. Fourth, the teacher less creative to choose any appropriate method. This is the formulation of the problem. The first, does the use student team achievement division or STAD improve student achievement in speaking? Second, how are the students respond toward the teaching of speaking by using STAD in teaching and learning process in the classroom? Objective research to find out if the use of student team achievement division improves student achievement in speaking, and to investigate the student response toward the teaching of speaking by using STAD in teaching learning process in the classroom. The next is literature review. The first is definition of speaking. Brown elaborated that speaking become a great challenge for language learner. Broad and newly content that speaking is often that skill upon which a person is judged at face value. People mostly in many circumstances make their own judgment or opinion of our speaking aspect toward the language development. It means that speaking is the aspect that become a big deal which students face because they must deal with some item related to speaking practice such as vocabulary, fluency, and pronunciation. That is students' reason for considering speaking as a difficult skill for them. In this situation, teacher must think and create a framework in improving the students' capabilities. In developing speaking skill, students need to work on their confidence and practical aspects of speaking. Richard and Renandia emphasize that language in any form need to be practiced. They further acknowledge that giving students interesting theme or topic in the context of speaking practice can encourage students to develop their confidence in practicing the language they learn. STAD, Student Team Achievement Division. STAD is one of the teaching techniques of cooperative learning. In cooperative learning, learners are instructed to follow learning language process by fitting them into some groups. Saharan mentioned STAD as a method that has a specifically in arranging and maximizing the circumstance of classroom preparation. Through this method, teachers divide learners into some groups which contain of 4 or 5 students. There are some indicators teachers can use to divide them into groups, such as their capabilities of intellectual, race, gender, or academic background. Students have responsibilities to assist each other toward their errors or difficulties they face in the process of learning by using STAD. It's very useful for them to decrease their shyness and overcome their anxiety by asking each other the problems they encounter. Although in STAD, students are divided based on the implementation of STAD in teaching speaking skill. STAD, Student Team Achievement Division. STAD is one of the teaching techniques of cooperative learning. In cooperative learning, learners are instructed to follow learning language process by fitting them into some groups. Saharan mentioned STAD as a method that has a specifically in arranging and maximizing the circumstance of classroom preparation. Through this method, teachers divide learners into some groups which contain of 4 or 5 students. There are some indicators teachers can use to divide them into groups, such as their capabilities of intellectual, race, gender, or academic background. Students have responsibilities to assist each other toward their errors or difficulties they face in the process of learning by using STAD. It's very useful for them to decrease their shyness and overcome their anxiety by asking each other the problems they encounter. Although in STAD, students are divided based on the difference of their capabilities and speaking performance. They can still motivate each other and create a comfortable situation among them. Therefore, it will influence student understanding and comprehension to the material without pressure because they have to fulfill all responsibilities prescribed in STAD. An example of responsibilities is that each member of a group should explain the material to each other, so that group member can understand the material from their own friends, making the learning process comfortable. There is no doubt that this method is breakthrough for teacher in organizing the classroom in order to make it more interesting and comfortable for students by applying certain items such as class presentation, team, and individual improvement scores. This is research methodology. In this research, the researchers used through experimental design. The research employ the experimental research because in this study, the researchers use all of subjects in the experimental group to get a treatment. In this study, there were two groups, experimental and control group. The researchers give different treatment to experimental and control group. In experimental group, the researchers taught the student by using STID, but in control group, conventional teaching method was used. The research was conducted at SMK Negeri 8 Bandar Lampung. There are 9 classes of the whole grades, grade 10, 11, and 12. The population of this research in the 10 grade students of SMK Negeri 8 Bandar Lampung, which consists of 3 classes, and there were 60 students in academic year of 2020 and 2021. In this research, the researchers used purposive sampling. The subject of the sample were the 10 akuntansi 1 student as the control class and the 10 akuntansi 2 students as the experimental class. 10 akuntansi 1 consists of 20 students, while 10 akuntansi 2 consists of 20 students. Next, how to collect the data. To analyze the data collected from pre-test and post-test, the researchers use quantitative statistics by using some statistical procedure to find out mean score, standard deviation, and t-test from both experimental and control group with the help of SPSS version 17. Then, statistical procedure were also run to identify whether the hypotheses in this research were accept or reject. This number of statistical procedure were used in order to observe the comparison of the score from both experimental and control group. The process of data analysis for both pre-test and post-test include the normality test and t-test. Furthermore, to examine the hypothesis, the data from experimental and control group were determined and compared by using the statistical procedure of t-test. As we know, the level of significant degree for this social research was 0,05. Therefore, the criteria of measuring the hypothesis are that if t-test less than t-table, hypothesis is accepted. On the contrary, if t-test more than t-table, hypothesis is accepted. Sigma p more than 0,05 means hypothesis was accepted, while sigma p less than 0,05 means hypothesis is accepted. The scoring system of questionnaire was carried out based on the Likert scale. This data was processed by using the percentage formula as recommended by Sujana, as follow, in which P is percentage, F is frequency of how many answers are chosen, N is the total number of the students, while 100 is the consent value. The chart above shows the distribution of pre-test score from experimental group. Some aspects were analyzed and given the score by the teacher based on the answer they give. The aspect analysis were pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. In pronunciation aspect, the highest score which the student achieved was 14, and the lowest score was 8. The score gap from the highest score to the maximum score was 4 points. It indicates that the score was at good category even though there were more than 10 students that only achieved score less than 10. In the vocabulary aspect, there were 13 students that got score less than 10. The majority of students almost achieved half score from the maximum score of 20. It showed that the students still lack of vocabulary but not in the worst level. In grammar aspect, 13 students got score 10 and lower than 10, indicating that the majority of students still had the obstacle in grammar. In their comprehension aspect of the pretest result, more than 10 students still got the score under 10 from the maximum score 20. They were still confused with the test or the topic. 14 students had problem in their fluency aspect. They still talk slowly with anxious feeling. The table shows that the lowest score of the pretest achieved by the students of the experimental group was 48. The lowest score was only gotten by one student. Meanwhile, the highest score was 62. There was only one student who got the highest score. However, in the post-test, the lowest score achieved by the student in the experimental group was 62. The lowest score was only reached by two students. Meanwhile, the highest score got by this group was 77. It means that there was an improvement in student speaking skill in a post-test compared to the pre-test score. The table above shows the statistical result for experimental group post-test and control group post-test, where the mean score of experimental group in the post-test was 70.95, higher than control group post-test 68.70. The standard deviation of experimental group in the post-test was 4.14, higher than control group, which was 2.84. To see if there is a significant difference between the two groups, the t-test was needed. The significant value of both the experimental and control group in the post-test was 0,048, which was lower than 0,05. In conclusion, H0 was rejected and HA was accepted, meaning that there was a significant difference in terms of speaking skill of the students taught by using STID and those taught by using traditional method. I think my presentation about my proposal is enough. Thank you for watching.